I have borderline personality disorder. I was diagnosed with it a couple of years ago, and I believe that I have suffered from it since my early teens. But I'm never going to make a video talking about it.
Say what? What is up, everybody? This is Chris from the Rewired Soul, where we talk about the problem, but focus on the solution. And if you're new to my channel is all about mental health. And what I like to do is pull different topics from the YouTube community to try to teach you how to improve your mental and emotional well-being. But I'm also about increasing mental health awareness and decreasing the stigma. So if you're into that kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. So yes, today, I'm going to be talking about Emma Blackery. I don't follow her much, but I made a video about her a long time ago, I think earlier this year, after she came back and she made a video called like The Rise and Fall of Emma Blackery, but I haven't really been in touch. I saw her like rant about the YouTube Rewind and all of that. But anyways, today I was doing my live stream on YouTube and shout out to Danny Louise. Danny Louise was in the live stream. She's like, yo, have you seen Emma Blackery's new video where she does a Q&A and she talks about borderline personality disorder? I'm like, no, I haven't. So I actually watched it on the live stream. I'm like, oh girl, I'm gonna have to make a video about this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to play the entire clip. It's about 2 minutes long, but there's some issues, and you know, and when I come back after you see this clip, like, I don't wanna throw any shade at Emma. I just wanna talk about my stance on mental illness and the stigma and being open about it, and I'll explain that a little bit more, but just check out the clip.
Right, okay, let's do this one. Do you have BPD? This is a question that I have avoided for a very long time. I've never answered it directly, and I'll explain why in a minute. Yes, I have borderline personality disorder. I was diagnosed with it a couple of years ago, and I believe that I have suffered from it since my early teens. But I'm never going to make a video talking about it. I refuse to be a spokesperson like people want me to be on borderline personality disorder. I'm not some great big champion of it. It's such a personal thing. I'm not gonna get like really defensive, because if I didn't want to answer this question, I could just skip it or edit this out, right? But the fact is, I've alluded to it in the past, and it's now got to the point where people are accusing me of being deliberately vague or making it up, as if like saying, oh, I hope she was actually diagnosed with it and isn't just like saying it. I'd never fucking do that. I genuinely would not with legitimate mental health personality disorders. I wouldn't do it. It's not nice. It's not a nice thing to have. There are a lot of things that people don't see online. Like, for instance, my ridiculously irrational anger that I get sometimes, these massive outbursts that people don't see. Waves of like really awful crippling depression that people don't really see. So I don't really upload much anymore anyway, but reckless impulsive decisions, like changing channels or looks, or you know, just personality wise, sense of abandonment, right? Like all of these things. I went to a professional, I got the diagnosis, and I'm still working through it. Fact, like that's it. And I'm never gonna make a video talking about it, because the last thing I want is people watching the video and discovering or feeling as though they have the same thing. It can be devastating to find that out, and I don't want to be, I just don't want that on my shoulders. And if you're watching this right now and you suffer from mental health problems, or if you have a personality disorder, you don't owe anybody shit. No matter how much you put of yourself online, you don't owe anybody an explanation into your mental health and your personal issues. This is such a personal thing that I live with every day that, you know, yes, it is maybe quite odd that like I don't talk about it if it's such a big part of my life, but it is so personal, and it is such a struggle at times. I don't want to put it out there. So yes, I have it. I was diagnosed professionally with it, and I don't want to elaborate on it any further than I just have. Simple as that. I hope I hope you can understand that, and I hope that we can now go, oh, okay, right, got it. Okay, done.
All right, so there's really just 2 points. There's really just 2 main points that I wanna talk about. And sometimes, you know, as somebody who's trying to decrease the stigma, like I feel like I gotta play a little damage control, right? And it's because it sucks to me because she doesn't wanna talk about it, but the only time she does, like, I can see people feeling embarrassed or ashamed about this thing, right? So she talks about how this is like a devastating thing, and man, like, I get it. Like one of the reasons I stayed in my active addiction and all these other things is because I thought like this was like a death sentence. This was just terrible. This was this awful thing, but it's not. It's not. Like, for a lot of people, this helps them understand why they do the things that they do. Like, getting diagnosed can be extremely empowering. Like, I know when I finally got diagnosed with a generalized anxiety disorder, like, it felt liberating. I was like, okay, now I have answers. Now I understand why my brain does the things that it does. Like, I'm not crazy, there's a name for this thing, right? I have an overactive amygdala. My fight, flight, or freeze mechanism goes all sorts of haywire. I freak out, you know? And again, like, if any of you wanna check it out, I have an entire borderline personality disorder playlist, and I've shared my BPD story. I have never officially been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, but a lot of the symptoms that she talks about, I can relate to, right? The fear of abandonment, the impulsive behavior, the changing, not identities necessarily, but lack of sense of self, you know, the emotional outbursts, all of those things, like, I get it. And it just sucks. Like, it sucks because, you know, man, like, she is such a public figure, and like, I'm gonna talk more about how you don't owe anybody anything, because she mentions that, and I'm gonna talk about that more towards the end of this video, but like, I just wanna let you know, like, when we're in this position, this is something that we can do to help other people. Like, she has over 1 million subscribers, and she can be a voice for people with mental illness. And rather than doing that, she's telling people, you don't owe anybody anything, this is devastating, this is terrible, you don't have to talk about it. I'm like, dang. I'm like, there's another side of this thing. And what sucks is that, especially when it comes to borderline personality disorder, there's a massive stigma. Like, there are mental health professionals who will not work with men or women who have BPD just because of some of the challenges. So when you have somebody with BPD talking about how terrible it is to have it, it's like, dang, you know? And one of the things is, I want people to look at me and see, like, I've changed a lot. I've changed, you know, with my emotional issues. I've changed with my fear of abandonment issues. I've changed this lack of sense of self. I've overcome these things, and I know a lot of other people who have recovered from borderline personality disorder. I'm also going to link my friend's channel. Her channel is called Recovery Mom. She is in BPD recovery. She has a ton of great videos on there, and like, that's just like, man, with Emma, she can just go out there and like, just inspire people to go get help. Like, she says, like, she doesn't want to be this voice or this face of BPD, and one of the things is she doesn't want the responsibility of somebody watching it and self-diagnosing themselves. Like, then Emma, if you ever watch this video, let me tell you the way around that. You say, if you can relate to anything I'm talking about, go see a professional. That's all you gotta say. That is literally all you gotta say. So like, I often talk about, and this is where some Emma Blackery stans are gonna get mad in the comments, I talk about how selfish and self-centered we are, right? And when you see Emma talking about this, it's completely selfish and self-centered. It's her, right? She doesn't want to, she doesn't like this, she all these other things. But I want all of you out there to know, like, there's a reason why I do this. So, real quick story. I was a closet drug addict and alcoholic for 2 years, right? In recovery. So I was sober for 2 years. And I remember on my 2-year anniversary, when I had 2 years sober, I was walking home, because I still didn't have a driver's license. I was walking home. I remember thinking, man, I never in a million years thought that I would have 2 years sober, right? And then when I sat there, I thought, I'm like, man, how many people out there think that they can't even get 2 days sober? And who am I to deny them my story of my challenges and struggles and successes, right? I am denying them the hope that I can give them You know what I'm saying? And from that moment on, I decided that I was gonna share my story. And years later, here I am with my own YouTube channel talking about my mental illness on a daily basis. Like, I get it, we don't want our mental illness to define us. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. I am not just Chris, the recovering addict. I'm not Chris, the guy with generalized anxiety disorder. I'm not Chris, the guy with depression. I'm Chris, I'm also a father, I'm a boyfriend, I'm an employee, I'm a YouTuber. You know, I'm all these other things. It is just a part of me, but there's so many people out there struggling, and I wish Emma would use her voice to encourage people to go to therapy. Like, yo, if you can relate to some of these things that I'm talking about, go to therapy like I did, you know? And it just bums me out. But the last thing I'll say is, like, she says you don't owe anybody anything. And that's true. It's true. Technically, you don't. My experience is working in the drug and alcohol treatment field, and I have people who take a month, 2 months, 3 months off of work to get treatment and learn how to live a new life sober and clean. And one of the questions I get all the time is, Chris, what do I tell people when they ask me? Chris, what do I tell people when they ask me? I'm like, you don't gotta tell them anything, right? But I always share what I just did. Like, you don't have to tell anybody anything. But at some point when you're comfortable, when you're ready, I think it's a good idea for all of us to do that, to show people what we've overcome. How else are we gonna inspire the next person who's struggling with this thing, you know? Like, so I don't know, I'm just, part of this channel is like, I'm trying to normalize this mental health conversation, and I don't want people to think that these are death sentences. That's why I talk about some of the strengths and benefits that people have, and if you're watching this video and you are uneducated about borderline personality disorder, go check out my entire playlist. This video is part of that playlist. I talk about what causes it. Like Emma says that it stems from her childhood. I explain why that happens. Many people with borderline personality disorder had traumatic experiences when they were children. Some of it is genetic, a lot of it is environmental. But if you wanna meet somebody who is very open, honest, and amazing when it comes to their diagnosis of BPD, aside from Recovery Mom, the YouTube channel, I also have a subscriber who has a BPD blog, okay? And here is a quote. She actually watched the Emma Blackery video with me on live stream, and she wrote a blog, and here's one of my favorite quotes from it. Instead, she has decided to open the box, then push it away because she doesn't want the burden of knowing that she has just helped someone to recognize that they might have a severely debilitating but legitimate mental illness. Exactly. So I'm gonna link to Steph's blog post. She's amazing. Please go check out her blog. If you have BPD or you just wanna understand borderline personality disorder and recovery and therapy and all of that stuff, please go check out Steph's blog, all right? And she's awesome. I'm also going to link her Twitter and Instagram down below, okay? But let me know your thoughts down below. Like, I don't know, are you open? Are you open and honest about your struggles with mental illness? Do you hide it? Like, what are you afraid of, you know? Maybe I can make a whole new video about this, all right? But let's have a conversation down below. And again, this is no shade at Emma Blackery, like, do your thing, girl, but I don't know, when you have a large platform like that, there's a lot of good you could do. All right? Anyways, that's all I got for you with this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new, make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell because I make a ton of videos. And a huge thank you to everybody supporting the channel over on Patreon. You are all amazing. We got some new names up here on this list, and there's exclusive content over on the Patreon, so if you would like to sign up, click or tap right there, all right? Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.